a great privilege to close for my party this afternoon. This feels very different to debates of this kind that have happened in this parliamentary session. Presiding officer, I invite you to look around you. The public gallery is largely empty. It's been largely empty for most of the day. The press gallery is largely empty, with the honourable exception of Liam Kirkcaldy, who is one of the finest comedy sketch writers in Scotland. He is not writing the front page splash of tomorrow's papers. It is symptomatic, Deputy Presiding Officer, of public interest on the wane. And I fear that Jackson Carlo is right, that this afternoon we have been playing only to the hardcore of the Yes movement, each of them dutifully tuned into Parliament TV and occasionally looking up from the crossword on the back of the National. Our country has judged this afternoon's debate for the theatre that it is, and it has turned away and moved on to other things. Presiding officer, it is high time that this Parliament joined them. At the start of her speech, the First Minister suggested that opposition politicians such as myself would speak with faux outrage. Can I assure her that my outrage is quite real? Outrage that another afternoon of government time we are spending not debating the many crises in our public services that her administration has provided on. Outrage that once again this First Minister is misappropriating my vote to remain in the European Union as a catalyst for another divisive independence referendum. And outrage that she is falsely once again trying to characterise this debate as an unambiguous choice between two unions. Since the Brexit result of 2016, she has sought to capitalise on the grief response of many ardent Remainers. I know what that grief response feels like. She has sought to characterise independence as a bridge back to membership of the European Union. But as with so many arguments deployed by this government, it fails to withstand exposure to reality. She knows that membership of the single market, as an independent Scotland would have to join, would mean hard border checks at Carlisle, that the treaty of the functioning of the European Union requires accession states to have a deficit, a structural deficit of no higher than 3% when ours is 7%. Put simply, Presiding Officer, the EU may choose not to have us for years.
Excuse me a minute, Mr Cole-Hamilton, please just sit down. There's too much chuntering going on. I can't hear what's being said. You go ahead, please.
The European Union may choose not to have us for years, and only off the back of savage spending cuts and tax rises. The measure of the SNP commitment to the European Union is hollow as well, and that is evidenced in the reality, as Willie Rennie said, that they spent far more on the Shetland by-election than they did on the Remain campaign in Scotland, that they refused to back a people's vote for 2.5 years, and that a third of their supporters that they will require to deliver the independence that they crave, still voted for Brexit. I say this to the First Minister, Remain voters will find you out. Presiding officer, as a Liberal Democrat, I know something about losing elections, but Brexit absolutely devastated me. I believe it made Britain smaller as a country, and it worried those many European Union citizens who work and live amongst us. And at this point, I echo the words of Jenny Gilruth. You are welcome here. This is your home, and we want you to stay. Presiding officer, to my fingertips, I'm an internationalist. But the last thing I could do is to meet the loss of one union I care about by jettisoning the other union I care about. Brexit is not a catalyst for independence, but a warning against it. Presiding officer, Donald Cameron, I think, in an excellent speech, put his finger on it, that we have learned absolutely nothing from the government this afternoon. This afternoon, indeed, was designed, as I think Richard Leonard rightly said, to appease her over-agitated base. Because, presiding officer, there is a point every few months when the launch of a new fact-checking service, which doesn't check any facts, or 10,000 dinner conversations, which the National are asking people to have. Not at my house, they won't. She knows that that just won't cut it anymore. I'm afraid I'm running out of time. She knows, the First Minister knows that she has to keep her base marching, that without meaningless debates like these in Parliament, then the eyes of her base will begin to drift to the failures of this government. And, presiding officer, those failures are legion. Legally binding waiting time guarantees being broken every single week, tens of thousands of times. People in pain coming into our surgeries, clutching letters saying they'll be treated in 12 weeks when they haven't been seen in 50. Child mental health waiting times, which see people in my constituency, children in your constituency, waiting up to 2 years for first-line treatment. Police officers off work with stress, or when they are at work, forced to inhabit stations that are structurally unsound. A children's hospital lying empty, costing £1.4 million a month, and primary schools filled with talented teachers in overcrowded classes teaching to a test that none of them agree with. The list goes on and on and on. Presiding officer, we have heard a lot about mandates today, but at no point have the combined manifestos of either of the parties that support independence in this country ever amounted to 50% when they have proposed an independence referendum in their pages. Furthermore, neither of the parties who will vote for this motion tonight have met the test of public opinion that they set themselves, and so we shall vote against it tonight.